Well, good afternoon, Stuart, and good afternoon, everyone who's out there.
Good afternoon, Derek. How are you doing?
I'm diddling fine, thank you very much. This is the first ever episode of the Opinioneers, and it sounds as though we're self-opinionated, and of course we're not at all. We have opinions, we have thoughts, but we're just going to talk about businessy things. And if anyone out there has an opinion or a comment or a thought, please put them in your comments and we can see them all come up and take them on board. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, we have some mapped out, but if you've got something you'd like us to talk about, then please feel free to put them in the comments. So, innovation culture, yeah, very strange title, I thought, but
I liked it.
But yes, innovation culture or mould. And the reason I picked that was because much of the stuff people talk about is about as much use as the black bathroom mould. So it's got to do a bit more than that. So that was the reason for that. So innovation and what we were talking about before we came on here. Failure.
Yeah, no. So for me, Derek, I mean, I think innovation, cultural mould. I mean, I was many years ago a microbiologist, and I quite like the idea of the fact that sometimes innovation is one of those accidental discoveries, but most people seem to treat innovation as something which can only be an accidental discovery. They don't put a process behind how you make that process something which is going to be structured. It's going to end up producing results, and too often people sort of take this sort of view that, okay, if innovation happens, it's great, but we're not going to expect it to happen. It's just going to happen occasionally or only happen to special people, which is not what most companies need, or indeed what most companies have to rely on.
Yeah. I mean, there are some very subtle things in what you said there, actually. One is talk about the idea of process versus non-process. I sit on the fence a bit with processes for innovation because I tend not to like processes generally. But where people fail is what happens as a result of innovation. They just can't capture it. They're not ready for it. They don't know what to do with it. And I think that's where a lot of people do go wrong.
Well, I think that's an interesting one, and one of the things I was doing in preparation for this, I did a few things that I sort of made some notes on, but one of them was for steps for measuring innovation, because one of the things I did in the past was put together a couple of innovation hubs for businesses, and the key was that the thing that we had to put in was measure not only the rate of innovation, i.e. how many times we were coming up with new ideas and how many of those ideas went forward into something, but what was the return on investment, so that you could actually justify to the board that doing this innovation thing was great. And one of the problems is that very often people don't actually put that sort of measurement in. It's one of those sort of like, great stuff's happened and now it becomes a product, or now it becomes a new process, or now something happens with it, but nobody actually looks and says, well, how expensive was it? What return did we get? Should we be doing more of it or less of it? Because it's not being measured. And measurement is such a critical element of innovation, which, once again, because I think most people believe that innovation is something somehow special, or somehow it just happens by magic, doesn't get measurement behind it.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff to do with return on innovation. There's one particular thing which made my eyes light up and my ears light up, and just about every part of me lights up when I heard about it. Was many people, I don't know whether you've heard about it or any people watching in will have heard about it, but Pfizer are very big into innovation, and they have I can't remember exactly what they called it. It's like an innovation lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's two reasonably large factory units which are set up to be reconfigurable, a bit like, I suppose, like these clever theatres or something like that. So they're fully staffed. There's food there. There's all the stuff you'd want: wash whiteboards, nice cushions, you name it, or everything you want to have a nice facilitated workshop. And basically, what they do is when a team wants to solve a problem, they have some knotty problem to solve, they go there and solve it. And yeah, that all sounds very nice. But this thing costs $6 million a year to run. Everybody's going, oh, that's expensive. We can't do that. But the way they measured their return on that small piece of investment was what they say to all the teams: look, you've solved this problem. You've been here for 6 weeks. How long would it have taken you to solve the problem or get what you want? And if they say, 12 weeks, then they've saved six weeks of a team, which could be, a team of 10 people. How many man days or person days is that? And that's how they measured it, the saving. And doing that, their return on investment was 3,000%.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to be very careful how you, and that works for services and any internal processes that they're trying to tweak as well. Not just new product, profit from new product, feeds into our return on investment. So you have to be very canny about what you measure, otherwise you'll get the wrong answers.
I certainly did something like that for a telecoms company, and we had a sort of a budget to enable people to sort of go into a space. And it didn't cost $6 million a year, but we had a space where they could go and solve it. And the way that we used to evaluate that was essentially I was sort of chairing the innovation committee, if you like. And what we did is we had to collect electronically, because it's great if you can just sort of drop a piece of paper into a bucket and to pick it out, but it became difficult to track. So we had people submit ideas, things they wanted to solve, whatever. So we had a record of what the idea was they were trying to solve and who it was. We evaluated each one of those ideas individually. We categorized it, if you like, into terms of where it might fit in, and once again our alignment with our business plan, because there was no point in solving an idea which wasn't going to align somehow with the business plan. So there had to be an alignment with the business plan. That's another area where I think a lot of people sort of fail miserably. They don't align with business plans. It's just like, let's do stuff. So we categorized and aligned it with the business plan. We saw that it was a sensible thing to do. And then what we did is we would meet as a committee every so often, and we'd sort of select our top 2 or 3. And part of the selection process was somebody had to produce a cost. So this idea will cost us this much to solve, but it will bring this much potential benefit. So we had this sort of return on innovation as part of our, okay, that one sounds like it's a good bet. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a success out of one of these things, but you've got at least a way of saying that one is worth progressing. Yeah. That one, maybe not at the moment, possibly because of alignment, possibly because of return on innovation. But by doing this, sort of collecting and tracking and then doing the cost, we were then able to say, right, go ahead, see what comes out of your 6 weeks in the innovation lab or whatever it is. Once you've gone into that, we were able then to say, right, okay, what's come out? Can we track from there into implementation? And the whole thing was basically just a selection process, but it was the fact that we were putting measurement in at every stage. What's the sort of, where's the idea come from? How is it aligned with business plan? What's the potential cost and benefit of doing this thing? Great, we know that it's worthwhile doing. Okay, when it comes out of it and it goes into implementation, then you can fully track into a return once it gets into product or improvement. Yeah. And some great things came out of it. And I was able then to go back to the board and basically say, you spent this much last year on innovation, so here's your costs that you can put in for R&D tax claims and things like that. By the way, the return was, and give them an actual number of return. And they liked it, particularly the operations director, who would turn around and go, I get some great stuff coming out of this.
Yeah, the other thing you can do, and it's probably mainly for smaller companies, is you can actually calibrate your innovation pipeline quite well based on idea generation. Because I've done several sort of workshops over the years, and basically we start off generating crazy ideas, absolutely crazy ideas, and then out of those selecting something that's not quite so crazy, but has something about it. And then out of those, is there anything that we really can look at? And the ratio is roughly between the really crazy to the, well, in each stage it's an order of magnitude. It's like 10 to 1. So for every 100 really crazy, wacky ideas, you might get something worth looking at, which gives some particularly smaller companies an idea of how much time they need to spend on it. And it's not actually, unless you actually go and do the development, it's not actually that much.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So if you need one new product a year.
A lot of people are put off doing some of this stuff because they think it will be costly or expensive or take up a lot of time. And actually, most of the time, these ideas are not a very large amount of commitment of time or effort. They can be very quick and they can produce very fast, very interesting results.
Yeah, well, I've bored people to death with the story of the mattress manufacturers in Mexico. But that was long term they had a sort of strategy, but initially they were trying to stop factories closing, and so what they did was literally take people out of the workforce, and they took them out of the factory, and they had two almost like townhouses side by side, one to live in, one to work in, and the idea was you come here for the best part of a year, and you've got to have 5 new products to show for it. And they just let them do what they want. Not absolutely crazy, but if you're making mattresses, why are you making your own coil springs? Why out of wire? Why aren't you making them out of plastic? So that's what they did, which opened up medical and hospitality markets. A number of things. You can get some reasonably quick wins, but the other aspect of that was, it wasn't we'll educate everybody in the company. It was, we'll rotate people through this. So everybody in the company got used to thinking differently. So at the end of it, ideas could come from anywhere, which was the great part of it, which is sort of why we almost get back to culture, because it's really the whole company, not just
agreed.
the R&D department.
Agreed. The whole company is an important element of this, isn't it? And
it is.
Everybody having that attitude, and it brings me to one of the other things that we were talking when we were just sort of coming on air, which is the whole idea of a company taking the attitude of trying to fail fast or fail forward, which I think you and I are sort of along the lines of believing shouldn't be the attitude. For me, I've always tried to understand what failing forward means. And I've got some ideas, which is that it's good because it means that you've decided you're not aiming at doing everything perfectly in one shot, or you see failure as a part of a normal process of learning. But should you be trying to fail? Should you be setting yourself up as fail mentally? Does that help you to say, oh, I'm going to do this and it will probably fail? Or should you be trying to think to yourself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to aim to succeed? I mean, one of the things that sort of I've always believed is a business that tries to do it right first time every time is going to be better off than any other business. But the fact is, trying to do it right first time and trying to do it right first time every time inevitably will lead to some things which don't work, but you learn from it. A baby, when it falls on its backside, just learns from the fact that that's not the way to do it. Edison's great quote, now I know that I've found 10,000 ways that won't work. But what he never tried to do was set it up to fail. What he said was, when that one didn't work, okay, great, I know that doesn't work, but what am I going to do to make it succeed? So there's a different attitude to trying to fail fast. It's actually trying to succeed, but accepting that failure is part of that process.
Yeah, you've always got to learn, but I've seen too many people say, we've just got to keep going through this cycle faster and faster, and if we fail, we go through another cycle, and we're bound to get to the success quickly, and with the focus on failing rather than learning. And that's, if you've got 6 options in front of you and you're not sure which one's going to work, you will obviously pick the most likely, but you don't know. So, they fail. You learn, you do something else. I mean, Edison unfortunately picked however many thousand not to work first, but he
But he
didn't.
never, but he never, but I don't think at any stage was he saying, I'm doing this one to fail. He was doing
No,
this one because he believed it would succeed. And when it didn't succeed, it was okay. That's not a problem not to have succeeded. It's now we learn from that and we move forward. So, but he was never taking the attitude, I'm going to set something up to
no,
fail. He was taking the attitude, I'm setting something up to succeed. If it doesn't succeed, I'm going to learn from it. There's a different mental approach, there's a
yeah,
different attitude and approach to those two things. When people are going into it saying fail fast, they're basically saying, I'm going to just do it and hit and hope. We all know that in any, taking a sporting analogy, hitting and hoping is not going to produce the best result. We
no,
actually should try to succeed and accept that sometimes it doesn't come off.
no.
And I think
Actually,
there's a mental, I think there's a hugely different mentality
yeah,
to
there is.
this, which is
There is.
you should be focusing on success, but accepting as a human being that you are not going to succeed every single time.
Yeah, actually, for anybody watching who hasn't seen it, I look up on the internet the Museum of Failure,
Oh yes, you were telling me about this. Yeah.
or look up Samuel West, who's the curator of the Museum of Failure. I had the pleasure of interviewing him 18 months or so ago. But you will see some spectacular failures. I mean, Coca-Cola produced Black Coke because it was at the time when Coca-Cola was popular with the young whippersnappers, and black was the in color. Why wouldn't it work? No, Black Coke does not work at all. But it's this is not to do with the culture of innovation, but this is just to make. If you go and have a look at this, you'll think, what were these people thinking, and how did they get as far as they did with these products? It's worth a look. It's worth a look, definitely. So yes,
But you see, once again, were they going into that with the attitude? They were going into that with the attitude, this is a product people want. This is we're setting up for success. Although, there can be some really, really odd thinking occasion, can't there?
well, you're going into almost into the realms of the Netflix blockbuster scenario, when you're ignoring some of the environment and believe you're right. So I mean, yeah, we've had a lot of these things. Netflix blockbuster was the classic example, but also Kodak. If you've basically got the monopoly of the camera market, and you don't wake up to digital cameras, and then Sony sort of took over the market at that point with digital cameras, and Kodak were left with film.
Well, I think we've got into an interesting, and perhaps this is a subject for a future discussion.
Indeed.
But the ability of an organisation, the ability of a company not to decide to eat its own product when it realizes it's out of step. The one thing that Kodak did was not recognize that its product had become defunct, and instead of being prepared to discard their past. I'm going to give a personal example. I'm actually, as part of in my spare time, I'm working. I do some things with a group at the moment, and there were a lot of discussions when I was meeting with them last night. We were talking about the future of things. A lot of them were wanting to go back to the way we always used to do it because we were successful then. It's not business; it's a charity. But we were sort of, and I was just basically saying, the future doesn't lie in looking in the rearview mirror and seeing what was. The future the world has moved around us, so the future lies in actually sometimes having to destroy your own internal sort of desires, the desire not to change, and to instead of sort of saying, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, but we want to do it better, and we'll believe that success comes from that, is to accept. Often you have to turn around and go, no, I'm sorry, but the future comes from actually trying something new and to keep up with what others are doing around you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of businesses say, I've been successful doing what I've been doing. I've been successful with what product I've got at the moment. I'm just sure that the world hasn't truly moved around me. And if we just do what we're doing better and faster, we'll get the same results as that we used to. And I just don't believe that to be true anymore.
Yeah, that's the sort of backbone of many of these digital transformations.
It is absolutely right.
I mean, most of the spectacular failures of government computer systems have just been as a result of taking existing processes and digitizing them, making them digital. So all the failures can just be replicated more quickly.
Yeah, exactly. It's just moving the bad through the system much more quickly, so that somehow that makes it cheaper.
Which also has an impact on moving into the realms of AI, because we've got to mention it at least once, haven't we?
Oh,
really.
God.
But the point about AI and training AI and how we use it is that the data has to be there has to be a certain integrity of data, and just by taking what we've already got, turbocharging it, squirting it all into AI, it's not going to end well for some people anyway. That's for sure.
I mean, it's a problem that's not yet been addressed, and I suspect we could talk about this one at a future stage. But the ethical considerations at this stage of who owns a lot of those training data, I think is going to be proven to have two problems with it. One of which is that there are going to be costs which these AI businesses haven't yet recognized they're going to have to pay, copyright, trademarking, that sort of thing. But I think the second thing is that to a large extent, the data that is being used is such a selected knowledge. It's only those things which are on the internet. I appreciate the internet has got a lot of information out there, but it's come from a very select group of people, normally pale, male, and American, and as a result, it's a very narrow set. None of that at the moment is being addressed by the current set of AI tools that are out there.
No.
And I know what I've heard. Some of them that are now beginning to say is that the next generation of AI tools will start to do much more reasoning, something getting towards thinking and planning, and they're going to be coming from a training set of data which is highly flawed under those circumstances.
Yeah, and because we're almost at the end, that's something I'd like to plant in people's minds as well, is that it was something I read on Facebook, so it's got to be true. Was somebody, and I've seen it written several times elsewhere, but people are saying, I want AI to load my dishwasher and take my bins out, and do all the mundane tasks for me. I don't want AI to write stories and generate pictures, which is all the things I really like to do myself. So that's good. That could possibly introduce an interesting dichotomy, if you like, for those who are in HR. How do you marry up the AI doing lots of stuff, but what stuff do you point it at?
I'm highly in an agreement. AI needs to come and cut my grass over the weekend, because frankly it's grown because it's been slightly warm and slightly wet, and I want somebody else to cut the grass, and I would prefer it to be an AI bot out there chopping at the grass rather than me. Unfortunately, right at the moment, I've been training an AI to do that, and it just doesn't get it. So it's not going to be that particular bot this weekend.
No, but it could possibly look at the weather and decide when the grass might be cut and set itself up with the optimum settings to chomp through it. Yeah, but yes, an interesting problem. So there we go. So we don't seem to have any comments or suggestions through from anybody.
Well, that seems entirely reasonable.
Well, yeah, they're all eating their lunch, which is what we actually suggested they did whilst watching this. So We
That
can't we,
I
we,
must
we can't be critical, can we?
that I must admit is something that I am currently doing. You just can't tell from the way that I'm sort of dropping morsels of food in using an AI bot to hide my hand actions.
Well, yeah, editing in real time. That's very clever. So
So
yeah,
when are we doing this one again then, Mr.
we're
Cheshire?
doing this one. I don't know the exact date.
Oh,
That's very remiss of me. But there is a formula, which is the second Friday of every month at 12:30 p.m.
the second Friday of next month will be, he said, desperately trying to find on his computer the calendar, which is somewhere over here. So the second Friday of next month is April this month, and the second Friday will be the 10th
10th.
of May.
So there we go. Friday we took a long time to get there. We need a calendar bot as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Um,
10th of May.
10th of May, 12:30. We'll be back for more thoughts and opinions and
Whatever else
whatever.
these are.
Uh, well, yeah, whatever else these are. So I shall say goodbye to Stuart,
Goodbye to you, Tarek.
and yeah, we'll disappear for now. It's been nice chatting. See you all in a month's time.